Infrastructure is crumbling in the city of Los Angeles, and as chairman of Public Works, it's been a priority of mine to fix our streets and sidewalks. The generations that came to this campus beginning in the mid-30s to today, we value ourselves with our alumni that have really been successful in the arts and academics and athletics.
This is a city that I know, this is a city that I'm proud to represent. The question we have to ask ourselves is, what are we doing to promote these stories? So we say thank you, but now we owe it to the voters to make sure we deliver for those who supported this measure. I'm Councilmember Joe Buscaino. I'm honored and blessed to serve this amazing, beloved community of Watts, and have done so the last 7 years.
Representing LA Council District 15 is San Pedro born and raised Joe Buscaino. A 15-year veteran of the LAPD, he had a tremendous amount of hands-on experience dealing with the issues and problems of his neighborhoods. Now, as a member of the LA City Council, he can help create workable solutions for the areas which he serves.
District 15 represents San Pedro, Wilmington, Harbor City, Harbor Gateway, and Watts. And we're one of 15 council districts representing nearly 275,000 residents in the city of Los Angeles. 3 top issues are homelessness, homelessness, and homelessness. Every day we field calls about the concerns of homeless individuals living in our streets from Watts down to San Pedro. The constituents, residents in my district are demanding me to do something about it, and we are really proud of the fact that we will have not 1, but 3 bridge home sites in my district to move individuals from the sidewalks and into emergency shelter. Bridge housing is an emergency shelter, and it's funded by the voter-approved HHH measure.
You are no longer homeless today. You are no longer homeless today.
We have really embraced and supported flyaway homes, which is the prefab units. My colleague Marquise Harris Dawson just opened his first flyaway home in South Los Angeles in Council District 8. Really proud of him and really embracing this model here that's actually 4 times cheaper and 4 times faster in putting together these prefab homes that are now housing individuals who are formerly homeless. You know, we cannot solve homelessness without housing, clearly. And that's housing for me, housing on all income levels, whether it's, you know, Section 8, affordable, workforce, or market rate. We are leading with a sense of urgency and embracing these types of housing developments from Watts to the waterfront. And in my district alone, we have 500 supportive housing units for the homelessness issue. We also are moving on the Jordan Downs project, where we're doubling the footprint there from 700 units to 1,400 units of affordable Section 8 and home ownership in Watts. Really proud of working with the Housing Authority on that end.
As a former policeman, do you hear a lot about crime in the district?
People want to feel safe in our city. Yeah. You know, if they don't feel safe, Anita, they're not going to want to live here, raise their families here, start a business here. We have really embraced the community-based policing in Watts, San Pedro, Harbor City, Harbor Gateway, and Wilmington. We have amazing officers who respond to calls. But we're also, you know, as a former senior lead officer who, you know, you and I go way back in this show, right? I was here when I was a senior lead officer talking about crime prevention and partnerships and problem solving. And as a council member, it's like I haven't left police work. I'm doing the same thing. You know, as much as we want officers to be in every street corner, they just can't. They just can't be. So we have really embraced the fact that we're doing a lot of the digital neighborhood watch through Facebook and other avenues, and working with law enforcement and our detectives at Harbor and Southeast Division, and it's been very successful. I'm just so blessed to represent a district that embraces our law enforcement officers and also our firefighters, our first responders. You know, I felt that as a police officer as well. Very supportive community. Quality of life is everything in our city. You know, if we're not really addressing the quality of life concerns, we call it the broken window theory. That's what Chief Bratton taught me, is that if we don't address the small things, it can get into more violent crimes in our city. So really proud of working with the senior lead officers in Harvard and Southeast who've been very responsive to our concerns and partnering with the community through neighborhood watch and business watch groups and with our local youth organizations as well.
I don't know how the constituents use the websites to reach you, but how do you address the concerns? Do you reach out to the constituents through the websites, or do they leave phone numbers? How does that work?
So we have an active website, la15th.com, la15th.com, and I encourage Channel 35 viewers to come on and join our webpage and sign up for our weekly newsletters. In addition, we do monitor the Facebook posts. We led an effort 5 years ago to have these neighborhood watch pages via Facebook, and they have since expanded into multiple groups where people are really looking out for each other.
And as we look toward the future of this region, I'm reminded of my goals when I took office a little more than 7 years ago. To take that determination and discipline that I learned during the 15 years I served as a police officer in the LAPD, and to use it to create a city that works for the people, not against them, where people can thrive, not just survive, where our residents can share in the economic prosperity coming into this city.
We're starting to see the transformation unfold in San Pedro, not only San Pedro, but throughout the district. From Watts to the waterfront, I'm calling it. Amazing work that's been done on improving the housing stock. We're raising wages. We're seeing our building and safety permits increase fourfold. So something's happening, and it's the right thing here. Oftentimes we feel disconnected to the city, but no longer. We're no longer the redhead stepchild here, because we're seeing the transformation unfold. From retail, dining, entertainment, boutique hotels coming online, housing's coming online. This is a new waterfront destination for this entire region.
Let's talk a little bit about business. The port. How big of a economic engine is the port in your district?
So the Port of Los Angeles, which I'm very fortunate to have in my district, creates 1 in 9 jobs in Southern California. 1 in 50 jobs
in
throughout
the
country.
Entire Southern California region.
Correct, through the goods movement supply chain. And 1 in 50 jobs nationally. We had a record-breaking year last year. Over 9 million containers that were moved. We heavily rely on those jobs. There's always that threat of automation that now has taken to the streets. Been very concerned about the future of work in our port complex today. And on the community side, we are finally moving on redeveloping and transforming our waterfront. So the San Pedro Public Market will be opening in the first quarter of 2021. And if you were to visit the LA waterfront, you can see the Battleship Iowa. We just hosted Cirque du Soleil. And we're really excited about the businesses that are coming online on 7th Street and 6th Street. We have not only retail, but also housing coming online. So we're really excited about the progress that the port's making, not only on the business side, but also on the community side as well.
Well, it sounds like there are some really exciting things happening in your district. Councilman Joe Buscaino, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks.
I am Anita Bennett, and thank you for watching LA Currents.
Earthquakes have been hitting the Southland recently, making us wonder whether we are ready for the big one. And with us to give us information about what we need to do is Chris Ibsen, who is with the City of Los Angeles Emergency Management Department. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having us. Appreciate you.
Let's begin by talking about what we need to do to get our homes ready.
As far as the home, we recommend, we've seen that most people get hurt with non-structural things, bookshelves, mirrors not properly hung. If you saw images of the recent earthquake we had, one of the ones that kept in my mind is the one in the library where all of the books collapsed and it was sheer mess. So securing your shelves, your mirrors to the studs, you know, so that it's secure and safe. So that's one of the biggest things for us. Do you have an escape route in case you're asked to evacuate quickly, and where is your meeting place? Obviously, communication is going to be essential. How do we communicate with our family? We've seen cellular phones in big emergencies. There's no availability of service, so we recommend a texting group, or even Facebook, Instagram if you have that. So social media is really a way to leverage your communication capabilities, as is shown to be very resilient. As far as basic first aid supplies, have a good first aid kit in hand in case somebody does get hurt. And if you are able to take first aid CPR training, we recommend that you do that, offered by organizations like the American Red Cross. Your Go Kit. You may get authorities knocking on your door and saying you need to leave and you need to leave now. Do you have that Go Kit with the essential supplies, some basic food, some water, clothing, sturdy shoes, those kind of things? You could be in bed and the earthquake hits. People say, well, what do I do? Do I run out of bed? No, you're supposed to huddle up and put a pillow over yourself. And if you've done that non-structural mitigation that I talked about, you shouldn't have any heavy items that aren't secured above your bed. But in case, you would cover up with a pillow, and then once the shaking stops, if you want to get off your bed, have those sturdy shoes ready to go so you can go ahead and do a size up of your home. Is anybody hurt? So those are the basics.
How much food, how much water? For how many days?
Yeah, obviously depending on the size of the family, but for each individual, we like at least 3 to 4 gallons per person. So you're looking at, if you have a household of 4 or 5, maybe 20 gallons of water. Rotate it. We know that there is water you can purchase that has a 5 to, we've seen some of them that have 50-year shelf life. So obviously if you have that, you don't have to rotate it as much, but regular consumer water is about every 6 months. And obviously with water, that's going to be your most critical supply, because they say that you can live with just water for at least 4 to 5 days, depending on your health condition. And food, you need to have 3 to 10 days is what we recommend. Obviously, food that's not perishable, you know, like pastas, canned goods, and obviously make sure that you have stuff for your children, that they will like it. Some people have stored food. We've heard my kids won't eat it. They're stuck in a earthquake scenario. They don't have access to a lot of food, but they wouldn't eat it. So make sure it's stuff that your kids do like.
Tell us about your office. I know you do an awful lot to help the people of Los Angeles. So tell us what you do.
Yeah, so we're a full-time emergency management office. One of our big programs right now is Rylan Ready Your LA Neighborhood. And that's actually something you can look up on a search engine, and it'll pop up as Rylan. And so we have always recommended preparedness at the individual household for the individual. What we found to be more effective is at the neighborhood level, anywhere between 40 to 50 homes. You may be a nurse, I may be a contractor, you may be having a person that's an architect that has structural knowledge that can do search and rescue operations. And what Rylan does is it puts an emergency component, a team component, to your neighborhood. So you'll have a incident commander, so to speak, somebody that's in charge. You have folks that are in charge of search and rescue, so they have roles and responsibilities.
A lot of us don't always know how to react in a situation. We mentioned at home, you get under some table or whatever when the quake is happening. But what about if you are on a freeway overpass? You're on the freeway. It's rush hour in Los Angeles. For me, that's one of the most terrifying thoughts, being stuck in a quake at that time. What do you do?
Well, first of all, keep in mind panic is the last thing you want to do. So for peace of mind, know that here in Southern California we have some of the finest building codes in the world. So those bridges, those overpasses that you're on are regularly checked. They're the responsibility of the state of California, and I'm very confident in our infrastructure. So what we don't want people to do is get out of their vehicle and start running out of their vehicles. Then the next person's going to see that. Next thing you know, we have everybody running. Now that thing collapses, then you could have a problem.
Once again, the dream of a good life in Southern California has taken a major jolt.
According to news reports, we've been hearing that this seismic activity is going to increase in the future. So what is your office doing to get people in LA to be more serious, to take it more seriously?
Yeah, LA, we have the luxury, and the reason why so many people live here is the weather. We like to say it's usually about 75 or 80 degrees and boring, right? Meaning we don't have tornado issues normally, hurricanes, these kinds of things. So the last thing people want to do is think about preparedness. Our office is challenged by what we call windows of opportunity. So these recent earthquakes, our phones are ringing off the hook. Can you come out and do a presentation for my neighborhood association? I'd like to get more information about getting prepared, because I'm hearing that earthquakes are going to start happening more and more with more frequency. So for us, we look at this as a window of opportunity. I mentioned the Ryland program, Ready Your LA Neighborhood. We challenge people to look that up. As far as communications, one of the things that we want people to do is our Notify LA product. That's our mass notification system. That's going to be the quickest and most effective way. It's like that Amber Alert that you get sometimes, or National Weather Service. If we have some flash flooding coming our way, they can take over the phones. That's what we want to do. And we want people to go to notifyla.org and register for this. It's a free mass notification system. We don't charge you for that. You'll get those alerts only when it's something that's imminent, some kind of danger or an earthquake happening. We're going to let you know. We're going to let you know. We're going to give you critical information. We have a population of over 4 million. Daytime could be 7 million because of all the people that come to Los Angeles to work. But we only have about 200,000 people registered. So we really need people to step up, take action today, and register for notifyla.org.
And where can people go for more general information?
Ready LA is our brand, so readyla.org, very comprehensive website. It's got information of what to do, prior to, during, and after. How am I going to recover? So it's not only the preparedness and the response, but the recovery actions, and that's something that Ready LA has. It's a comprehensive website that has all that information.
Chris, if there were 10 to 12 basic actions and things and that people would need to have or to do, what would they be?
Number one, water. Food, including pet food, don't forget. Important family documents, medical records. How about that first aid kit? Some basic tools. You're looking at batteries. Do you have cash? Cash is going to be essential. The radio, battery operated. Flashlights. Make sure you have flashlights or a way to light things up. And then clothing and sturdy shoes. So those are the things that you need to have in that kit.
With regards to earthquakes, is there anything else that you wanted to mention?
We need to be ready at any time. So wherever I'm at, whether it's at a concert or I'm at a basketball game or whatever, be aware of your exit routes, be aware of where you would drop cover and hold on. Anytime you practice and you execute that practice, you're going to be much better off than if you just go with your instincts.
Well, thank you for sharing all of this great information. We really appreciate it and really need it at this point in time. Well, thank you for joining us for this edition of LA Currents. I'm Saida Pagan.
I think Los Angeles is mysterious to a lot of people who don't live here and can sometimes be mysterious to its own residents. LA it's hard to pin down. It's a place that's hard to pin down, and I think that's what I try to do in my writing, is just to show the different kinds of Los Angeles that there are.
A review of your 2012 book, Elsewhere, California, describes it as, and I will quote, essential reading for Angelenos, Californians, and anyone interested in morally engaging storytelling. So my first question is, what makes your work and your books essential reading for Angelenos?
That's high praise, and I'm earning that praise, but I would just hope to reveal something about place that perhaps readers hadn't seen before, hadn't considered. Having lived downtown since 2005, in the Not Quite Dark, the short story collection, I was suddenly living downtown and I was seeing all kinds of, income disparity, the homelessness problem, so many things that I thought, again, not that I was going to be telling the quote-unquote truth about, but that there was something about living in that moment and that time and seeing what I was seeing that was important to document.
Let's talk about you and your journey as a writer. What made you decide to become a writer?
I think like most writers, I loved to read so much when I was a kid. I was a voracious reader. That's all I did. And at some point, there are people who love reading in books, and then there are people who love reading in books and want to try and do the thing that they're encountering when they engage with a book. And so that was me. I really wanted to see if I could do it. And so I first started writing poems, and then I started trying to write short stories, and that's sort of how I started writing. And then seriously writing, I took classes at UCLA. From there, I went to graduate school at Indiana University. I never knew anyone who was a writer growing up. I never ran into writers. So having access to getting a degree in creative writing, that was the thing that really made me a writer. My thesis at Indiana University was my collection of short stories that was eventually published because the collection, Break Any Woman Down, won the Flannery O'Connor Award for Short Fiction. And that was a huge break, very lucky. And from that I got an agent. So the award, it was a huge thing, life-changing for me, because out of that award came my first short story collection. I really wanted to tell the kind of stories that I felt were missing in books that I was reading when I was growing up. I wished that there were books that, about a little girl growing up in West Covina. I didn't have that. It was all like Hollywood. I never really saw my experience in the literature of Los Angeles.
Let's talk about your writing technique. I read somewhere that you actually write in longhand.
I do.
How does that help you with your creative process?
It's so funny because sometimes if you say you write in longhand, it's sort of like people give you the eye roll, like, because it sounds so precious, like, oh, you're writing longhand. How fancy, but or pretentious. But for me, there is an editing process that works for me when I'm writing longhand, because there's the moment from brain to hand to page, but I'm also editing as I'm writing down those initial sentences. I'm editing at that point. And then once I'm typing in my work, I'm editing it again as I type it. And so it's just a natural way for me to, in some ways, sneak in extra drafts, even though they're technically first drafts. It's a way for me to sort of process what I'm writing and thinking about it as I go along. Sometimes there are certain deadlines where I have to just get on that computer and just do it that way.
I'm wondering about how you do your research. How much of it is actually your own personal experience and how much of it is observation of what happens to other individuals?
It's always a combination of the two. For example, Elsewhere, California is about, it's a dual narrative about a young girl who moves from 80th in Vermont to West Covina, which is what I did when I was around 9 or 10, but it's not autobiography, it's fiction. What I was most interested in was what that move meant for assimilation, what that move meant for understanding place in California, Los Angeles, the suburbs of Los Angeles. But there are other stories, say, for example, in the short story collection, the last story in the collection is a story called The Story of Biddy Mason, who was, she erected the first AME church here in Los Angeles, entrepreneur, nurse, and I had never heard of her growing up. And so when I discovered her story, I wanted to write about it, but that required a ton of research. That was something that I really needed to research. So sometimes stories require that kind of research, and sometimes I'm really after sort of the emotional truth of perhaps something that actually happened, which then, though, has to be fictionalized. So I'm not ever writing what happened.
Right.
So a combination of research and combination of just sort of living life.
Dana, do you believe that there's anything very unique about being a creative person, a writer, here in Los Angeles?
I do find that the landscape really calls to me. There's something about Los Angeles weather, something about the light, something about driving and being surrounded by mountains. All of that, I found myself when I was in grad school in Indiana, writing about Los Angeles in ways that I hadn't before because I was suddenly away. And so I was understanding what I really appreciated about the place that I had sort of taken for granted while I was writing here at home. And so once I had that revelation, always some kind of way, something about the physical Los Angeles, the weather of it, the landscape of it. If I'm writing about Los Angeles or something set in Los Angeles or California, it's always going to have some of that in the work.
100 years from now, when someone reads your books, what do you hope that they will come away with?
I hope that they read my books and think, wow, I thought I knew Los Angeles and I didn't know it as well as I thought I did.
You know, since the publication of your first books, the landscape in many ways has changed in Los Angeles. So how has that impacted your work? And then what's next for you?
So yes, it's 2019 and I moved downtown in 2005, and that was my last book that I'd written in the Not Quite Dark, the short story collection. Stories that are mostly set downtown. And since that book was published and since living downtown all those years, it's changed completely. Many things that I write about aren't even there anymore, just very different place. And so, you know, I'm still always going to be writing about Los Angeles, likely in some capacity, but the project that I'm working on now is a novel, and it's set in both Los Angeles and the American South. And so it's sort of an examination of the United States in sort of the pre-Trump era.
Well, it sounds fascinating. And thank you so much for giving us a closer look at your creative process and how you do your work.
Traffic is slowing down and we're almost to the stadium. It only takes about 45 minutes from home, and then you're eating a Dodger dog and peanuts. You can always tell when you're almost there because of the old wooden houses with their paint peeling off on the right side of the freeway. White houses with blue paint underneath. Bars on all the windows. I like those old houses because they don't seem to fit where they are.